Good afternoon everyone, we are live at 4:40 p.m. You're with Emma. We've got lots for you here on Kids National News today in our special World Book Day show. But first, let's take a look at what's coming up. We will be showing you when we went to a special World Book Day event at the Theatre Royal in Newcastle, where we met authors and illustrators of books you may have read. Plus, we have our special guest, Adam Bushnell, who is also an author, and he will be joining us in the studio a bit later. And lastly, we will be showing you the latest pictures and gossip for the 2014 Oscars. So now let's have a look at what happened when KNN went to a World Book Day event at Theatre Royal in Newcastle. World Book Day is all about celebrating the joy of reading. We came to a special World Book Day event in Newcastle to meet some authors and illustrators. We spoke to Cathy Cassidy about reading and how you can get into writing your very own books.
I think I've always loved inventing characters and stories, and I've always been kind of creating characters and making up stories in my mind ever since I was really, really little, kind of in a daydreaming sort of a way, and then I began to write the stories down. And when I was a teenager, by the time I was 12 or 13, I would send short stories off through the post to the fiction editor of my favourite teen magazine, which was called Jackie, and eventually, when I was about 16, a different magazine bought and published and paid for a story that I'd written, and that sealed the deal really. It's like, I'd love to be an author. When I was 12, I was actually given a book as a present, and it was Watership Down by Richard Adams, which I was a bit worried about because I was 12 and I wasn't sure if it was cool to be seen with a book that had a big picture of a rabbit's face on the cover. It also kind of glued itself to my fingers and I couldn't put it down. I had to keep reading all through the weekend. And on Monday, I remember sneaking it into my school bag and taking it to school because I couldn't bear to leave it behind. I was leaning against a radiator reading this book with my hand over the cover so that nobody would be able to see the embarrassing rabbit's face on the cover. And the worst thing ever that I could have imagined happened. The coolest boy in our year walked up to me and said, "What are you reading?" And I had no choice but to show him the book with the embarrassing rabbit's face on the cover. And he said, "Watership Down is the best book I've ever read." And that was brilliant because kind of made a new friend who loved books as much as I did, and also learned a really important lesson: reading is cool. End of story.
Yeah. Alex Smith, who is this year's official World Book Day illustrator, also took the time to speak to us.
Well, I started to write really as a child. I've got a copy of a story that I wrote for a friend of mine for her birthday when I was 6. And I illustrated that, but I've really always loved writing and illustrating. I was very interested in books before I could read, and I just drew. My first memory is of drawing, and really I've just drawn constantly since then. All my my exercise books at school were illustrated, and they all had, I drew front covers on them as well, so it's just something that I don't seem to be able to stop doing. So I always start at the back of my sketchbook because it's less scary than starting on a blank first page. So I draw various different things. So I try out drawing characters, I draw animals, I draw from life a lot of the time, although it's not realistic drawings. So another thing that I do is I try to keep a visual diary as often as I can. It's not every day. I try to record things in my sketchbook, and sometimes I just let my imagination just do whatever. I always tell children if they want to be a writer that the best thing they can do to be a writer is to read. Reading is really important. I always explain to them that we have to eat healthily to make sure our muscles are really strong. But your brain is a muscle as well, so if you want to be a writer, the more you feed it with books, the stronger it becomes, and actually it makes writing a lot easier.
Best advice for aspiring authors would be write, okay? Not just in school, not just in your English or literacy lesson, but write because you love writing, write at home, and just enjoy what you do and don't let anybody tell you can't do it,
So now you will know how storytelling and reading is made lots of fun. Now the most important event on the film calendar is all over for another year. But despite that, it looked like a very exciting night at the Oscars yesterday. British director Steve McQueen celebrated winning the award for Best Picture, whilst Cate Blanchett won Best Actress and Matthew McConaughey was named Best Actor. Jennifer Lawrence tripped up on the red carpet and a pizza delivery turned up midway through the ceremony. A celebrity-filled selfie was posted by Ellen DeGeneres, and it is now the most retweeted image in Twitter's history after being tweeted 2.3 million times. Pharrell Williams performed his chart-topping song Happy from the film Despicable Me 2, which was also nominated for an Oscar. And actresses including Meryl Streep and Amy Adams joined him in the audience for a little dance. So even though it's all over now, it looks like it was a very glamorous and fun night. So, with it being World Book Day, we have a special guest on today's show. They are going to tell us about their books and the importance of reading from a young age, as well as what they do to celebrate this very special day. We now have a special guest, Adam Bushnell, who is a children's writer. Hi, Adam.
Hello.
So, what made you want to get into writing children's books?
I've always loved books and I've always loved reading. I used to be a teacher and I just found that stories really captured children's imaginations and worked extremely well as hooks to hook children in to be interested in a variety of different ways. And I just wanted to be a part of that. I used to trial a lot of the stories that I wrote on the children that were working in my class, and it was really the children that kind of pushed me to start submitting things.
Did you do anything specifically special on World Book Day?
World Book Day has become this massive phenomenon.
Yeah.
It's fantastic that so many schools and so many libraries and other organisations have really taken it on board. I was in a school in County Durham and all the children were dressed up as various different book characters. We started off with a whole school assembly and shared some stories. I got the children acting out stories. Then I worked with each class, creating their own stories along different themes. Jumped straight on a train, headed down to London, and then I was working with some Year 9 pupils that night on creative writing techniques. So yeah, pretty busy day.
Very busy day
Yeah,
for
it
you
was.
then.
Yeah, it was good though. I really enjoyed it.
Sounds really good.
Yeah.
So when you go into the schools, like what sort of activities will you get the children involved in to get them writing, I guess?
You need to bear with me on this one, but
That's
I use
fine.
a lot of weapons.
Right.
My house is absolutely rammed with suits of armour and Chinese dragon heads, and that I use an awful lot of props and resources to complement curriculum subjects and to fuel the writing. So if I'm asked to do something to do with Romans, I'll take in full Roman armour, shields, swords, spears,
Right.
etc.,
Wow.
and get the children to handle the artefacts
Yeah.
as fuel for the words that they're going to produce, as well as telling the stories from that era, etc. So, I use props, and my neighbours, see varied sights on a morning as I'm filling my car with, and my insurance is up to about £10 million.
Wow.
So yeah, it's pretty high. Fortunately, touch wood, we haven't had any mishaps. The children absolutely love it. There's
Yeah, I bet
nothing
they
I've
do.
seen more engaging than children handling artefacts and discussing them. And even the most reluctant writers, the words just seem to pour out of them, and they want to write, which is the best feeling in the world for me.
So is there any advice you'd like to give to any aspiring writers out
Getting
there?
published is very, very difficult, and it is an extremely competitive market, and
Yeah.
just be tenacious and stick with it and keep doing it. The more you write, the better you get, and no great painter was born with the ability to paint these masterpieces. The more you paint, the better you get, and the more you write, the better you get. So if there are any writers out there who have been rejected by publishers, just keep going, and it will happen. The more you write, it really will happen. And with children, I often am approached by children who say, I want to be a writer, or I
Yeah.
want to be an illustrator, and I just think that's fantastic to hear, and they should keep at it. It is a discipline to sit and write, but if you can adhere to that discipline, it just reaps great rewards. It's the best thing.
Definitely. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thanks.
That is all for this afternoon's special World Book Day show. I hope that you've all enjoyed it and that you've all learnt lots from it. To find out more about the things that we have covered today, head to the website. I hope you all have a wonderful evening, and I shall see you all again soon. Bye!